Listen, if I see...
I'm not mad about it.
If I see scary things in the woods, I am turning tail and running the exact opposite
Okay, but like,
direction.
picture this. You're going up...
Welcome to Trying Our Best. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Katie.
Oh my god.
And this is the show where we
Try our best. I don't know what that was, but what is it?
That was the pumpkin.
On your head?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, to really commemorate the start of October and spooky season, we're going to read spooky stories today. And we're going to try not to be too afraid of anything other than the mortality of our own lives.
Amen.
Anyways, try not to be too scared because I got scared looking for these and reading them. So,
oh, great.
Happy Halloween! Okay, so we are going to read some spooky stories in 3, 2, 1. It's time. Okay. So these stories are from a park ranger with the Forest Service, and he is a search and rescue officer. Mm-hmm. And I just can't even imagine the amount of weird things you would see out in the middle of nowhere where there's no civilization. I can't even imagine that. So these are stories from this one particular search and rescue officer with a couple added in from some of his colleagues.
Okay.
So, you ready to hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's get spooky.
I was teamed up with another... SAR stands for Search and Rescue.
Okay.
I don't want to say it every time. Okay. I was teamed up with another SAR officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get up to where we'd figure he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. Crevasse or crevice?
You decide.
We found him trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he'd gotten to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy, and when the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out and ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night, climbing down the mountains and letting out these horrible muffled screams. That story bothered me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it.
I'm just imagining, so what I'm imagining when it's, no face, at first my brain was a mask, and then I was no, it'd be creepier if it was, literally your skin, but it's just, all one, there's no eyes or eyebrows or anything. It's just skin, but it's still, the shape of your face,
Yeah, that really freaks me out. Okay. So this is from him and not from one of his friends. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is true in every SAR unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other SAR officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that we don't even...
Yep.
Oh, okay. I just lost my place.
We don't even think about it. I don't know if that's the next line.
They probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, 30 or 40 miles, at some point, we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest.
What?
I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal.
What?
Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them.
That's so, like, not sinister. Like, I was expecting it to be like, and the bones,
See, but
and
just
the
wait.
woods. Just, like, stairs. Like, wooden, like really well-constructed stairs.
If you would let me finish the story.
You keep distracting me. God. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. Everyone I asked said the same thing, that it was completely normal. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. They come in a variety of shapes, sizes, styles, and conditions. Some are pretty dilapidated, some ruins, but others are brand new. I saw one set that looked like they came from a lighthouse. They were metal and spiral, almost old-fashioned. The stairs don't go up infinitely or farther than I can see, but some sets are taller than others. Like I said before, just imagine the stairs in your house as if someone cut and pasted them into the middle of nowhere.
Is this Minecraft? Like, what is this?
No, it's real.
No, but I want to, okay, where is this? I want to go. I want to go to the staircase forest.
Apparently, it's like every forest. Like, I did some research on it. It's like a lot of forests. If you get, like, deep out into the wilderness, you'll see them. And, like, it's, like, really spooky. I did research on it.
I'm doing more research on that. That's so weird.
Yeah, okay. Here's more on the stairs. I was talking to a veteran, and we came up... Ouch. I was talking to a veteran, and we came up on some stairs in the woods. I asked him about them, and he told me to turn my radio off. I turned off mine and he his, and then he began his story. About 7 years ago, he tells me, he was out on a call with a rookie. They were in an area of the park that had a lot of strange reports and events. Disappearances, stories about lights in the forest, odd noises, things like that. The rookie was totally spooked, kept going on and on about things in the woods. According to the guy, the rookie wouldn't stop talking about the goat man, just on and on. Goat man this and goat man that. Finally, I told him that there was plenty else to be afraid of out here, and that was very real, that he'd better get over this thing with the goat man. The rookie wanted to know what kinds of things I was talking about, and I told him to shut up and walk. We crested a little ridge, and there was a staircase about 10 yards ahead. The rookie stops dead in his tracks and just stands there looking at him. I tell him, see, that's something you should be afraid of. The rookie asks me what those are doing out here, and for some reason, I just open up and tell him the truth, or what I've been told is the truth. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for doing what I did, and I could get in a lot of trouble for repeating it to you. But you're a nice kid, and I want you to stop looking into this. Quit while you're ahead. So I'll tell you what I know under the condition that you never breathe a word of this to the soups. And of course he, posts it on the internet. So there's that.
Oopsies.
I told him I wouldn't say a word, and he double checks that our radios are off.
And I lied.
And
if I was in the woods with some old man and he said, turn your radio off, I would be like, no, I'd rather not die now.
But here's the difference. You and I are more likely to get murdered in the woods than a man would be.
Anyways.
Sorry, not to get political, but I fear for my life a lot.
Oops.
And that's the real spooky story.
That we could be murdered at any time.
So I'll tell you everything I can think of, and after that, I'm done talking about it for good. And I expect you not to bring it up around me ever. The stairs have been out here as long as the parks have existed. We have records going back decades describing them. Sometimes people go up them and nothing happens. Other times, look, I really don't like talking about this, but sometimes really bad things happen.
Like what?
I saw one guy get his hand sliced clean off when he got to the top step. He reached out to touch a tree branch, and it happened so fast. 1 second his hand was there, and the next it was gone. Completely clean wound. We didn't find his hand, and the guy almost died.
What?
Another time, a woman touched one of the stairs, and a blood vessel in her brain exploded. Literally exploded, like a water balloon. She sort of stumbled down and came over to me, and all she got out was, I think something is wrong with me. She dropped like a sack of flour, dead before she hit the ground.
Isn't that just like a brain aneurysm?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the way the blood leaked into the inside of her eye. Before she died, I watched it turn red. And there wasn't a single thing I could do to help. We warn people not to go anywhere near them, but there's always at least one idiot who does. And even if nothing happens to them, bad things always happen. Kids go missing as we're on their trail. Someone dies the next day, cut in half in a completely safe part of the park. I don't know why, but something bad always happens. I don't know exactly why we're out here, but it doesn't matter. They're here, and if we were smart, we'd tell our new officers exactly what they're capable of. We were both quiet for a little while. I was afraid to talk because I wasn't sure if he was done. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Finally, that was the dramatic pause for him.
Cricket, cricket.
Finally, he spoke up again. Have you ever noticed how you can't find the same ones twice? I nodded, expecting him to continue, but he just stayed quiet, walking alongside me, and eventually he started a story about the biggest deer that he'd ever seen in the park. I didn't bring up the subject again, and I didn't press him for any more stories.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about this one. First off, I want to find a staircase, and I want to climb it because live fast, die young.
It just said how dangerous it was to go up there.
That's so weird. And I just like, wait, are there no pictures of it? Show me pictures of them in the woods.
Okay.
Because I'm just baffled by how there's like secretly massive staircases aren't small. If it was like there's tiny doors everywhere for like fairies. Okay. Thank you. This is what I wanted. We will insert the pictures onto the screen now, I guess.
Do you see?
Okay. Yes. So the stone ones make it seem more like, oh, maybe something was here like forever ago. But like the wooden ones, like that's weird because they don't go anywhere. And like there are a lot.
Yeah, that one freaks me out.
The spiral one is definitely the creepiest. That one against a tree, that's kind of weird.
But like,
I'm just like,
where is that supposed to go?
I don't know. That one's weird because there's like a wall at the end.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just confused.
Well, and look at this one. It has a door up top.
Oh, baby, you're going to another dimension.
Yeah, that's why like I want to go.
That's so cool. I wish I was like famous so I could be like, Shane Dawson, do a video on the stairs.
We can tweet at him.
Okay, let's tweet at Shane Dawson. Yeah. I'm very confused about like why I haven't heard of this before.
Because it's not really like something, I don't know. I feel like that's not something that like a lot of people would want to be concerned about, especially if like,
I just feel like it's so interesting in like the realm of like conspiracy theories, especially okay, like you said it's not like one forest.
No, it's
they're
like
supposedly in every, what is it
like deep in the wilderness.
Deep in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And so this is presumably land that's never been developed.
Yeah.
And
there was another story I read about how a guy, like another officer, was out in the woods. And he saw a staircase that looked like as if it was like just built, but it wasn't attached.
Fresh.
Like the carpet was still squishy. They even brought out like an architect, and he was like, "These were built yesterday."
Hello, if you are the person building stairs in the woods, please message me. I would love to talk to you, even if you are an alien. That's so cool.
Yeah,
it's like creepy, but it's really cool.
We were just talking to our good friend Rachel, and she told us that she has a set of stairs at her grandmother's house, and her little cousin ran up them and then jumped down from them with Rachel, and they thought they were only gone for like 5 minutes, and when she came back to her grandmother's house, they said she was gone for 3 hours. Ooh. So we stand some real life testimonies.
Coming at you with those hard facts.
Yeah, if you have like any stair stories, please, for the love
of
God, share them with us.
I want to know.
Them.
Anything in the woods is so terrifying.
Good for you, because I'm actually about to tell the story of the Goat Man.
Yay!
Have you heard the story of the Goat Man?
Maybe, but also my brain is split in half between like the Goat Man. I think I've heard of it, and then the Goat Man. Haha! I should make a joke about Mr. Tumnus and Narnia, and that's all my brain is processing right now.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure this Goat Man is not Mr. Tumnus. Did you hear my neck?
No.
I'm not gonna get it again.
Okay.
He says they had gotten halfway into the woods toward the camp when they started to hear things in the woods. It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure at first what it was. The girl said that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail, and they all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was someone standing back in the woods in a little hollow. Rooster said they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring them. He says that's when he realized that the guy was facing away from them. So they keep walking, and they start smelling the coppery ozone smell. They say that they look off into the forest on the opposite side, and it's a dude standing off in the forest, backward but slightly closer to the path.
Is this Blair Witch?
It sounds like a little bit. So now they start power walking, and Tan keeps going, I should have taken the rifle. As they're telling the story, the smell is super strong even inside the cabin. They say that they started walking faster. A kind of low gibbering had started from both sides of the wood. And as they started booking it back to the trailer, the girl said that she had flashed her flashlight out into the woods to the side of them and had seen something jerking along through the woods.
Oh, I don't like it.
The gibbering just got louder and louder, and when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods and about 40 yards behind them onto the track, and they had just flat out ran as hard as they could to the trailer. So we're out in the woods, and we're assuming at this point it's just some rednecks or something. All of a sudden,
As you do.
My other cousin, Junior, starts going on about how he went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the goat man. We promptly tell him to shut up because we don't need any spooky talk right now. But he just keeps going on and on about how it's the goat man and how we're in his woods and blah, blah, blah. To sum it up, it's basically a man with the head of a goat, and he can shapeshift, and he gets among groups of people to terrorize them.
Different. I thought he was like face of a man, butt of a goat.
No, it's like face of a goat, body of a man. Which is 10 times scarier.
Oh, I don't like that!
Yeah. So all of a sudden, the smell just goes away. Like, to this day, I haven't experienced anything like it. Like, usually smells fade away or lessen. It just literally was there 1 second and then not the next. So it's after an hour, making it around 9 or 10. We figure it was just some rednecks trying to mess with us, so we don't go back home because we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or something.
Yep.
Nothing else weird happens that night, and we stay another night, and for the main part of the night, nothing happens. At about 1 a.m, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories, and someone is finishing some story. I don't remember what about. The smell comes back. It's so strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting.
Oh, gross.
I stand up, and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside, and this isn't right. We should have just left. We all go back inside, and we're standing around. My cousin just keeps going on about how it's the goat man. My cousin Rooster tries to shut him up, and all the while, I'm feeling that something is wrong, and I can't figure out what it is. We end up sitting in the cabin for a while. Then when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tan just starts screaming, I run out of the cabin, and the girl runs out with us. The trailer door is banging against the side of the trailer as everybody books it out of the cabin. One of my cousin's friends asks us what's wrong. I start counting us. There's only 11 now.
How many were there?
There had been 12 people in the cabin. But being that everybody didn't really know each other well, nobody hadn't really noticed the whole time that there was an extra person. And then I realized earlier that I had kind of noticed something was off. You know how when you're just messing around having a good time that you don't sweat the smallest thing and you don't always keep track of the certain stuff?
He was with them.
I am dead sure that someone else had been in the trailer with us and that they had been there for at least a day eating with us. And what makes it worse, I could figure out which one because I don't think anyone ever actually interacted with the other person.
I don't like that.
The other girl kept praying to Jesus and we're all sitting outside. Eventually we get big sticks and go back in the cabin, but there's nobody in there. We count again, and there's 11 people. We go back into the trailer and lock the door. We explain what happened, and the girl says that she realized too, and that when she was about to say something, the person sitting next to her had grabbed her leg hard and leaned over to her and said something she couldn't understand. So we are pretty much scared to death as we huddle together, and I fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is just coming up, and half the people are asleep, and the other half are packing up to leave. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says he's going to be back. So there are 7 of us left by 4 p.m. At around 5 p.m., he hasn't made it back yet, and we're getting extremely antsy, and the only reason I stopped begging them to go back was because he went to get a gun. Then we hear Tan. He's screaming, "Let me in, stop playing!" And we go over to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside. Evidently, he had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen a girl. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, the girl turned around to him with a slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards the camp. He said it wasn't until he was almost halfway to the trailer he had realized that she was getting closer to him. She had started off by the fire, and without him even seeing her move, she had been inching closer. He said he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin thinking it would open. And when he got to the door and it was locked, he turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know there are only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling when your stomach drops. It had been inside the trailer when we were sorting out who was going where, and then we all went outside to talk earlier in the day. It had just slipped right back
name
in.
tags.
We looked out the window and there was nobody out there. So we recount everyone, and then basically I go over and ask everyone how many people there were earlier. And everybody says 8. I say, "Well, how many are there now?" They all do the count and then realize that there are only now 7 people in the cabin. So Tan had brought back a couple of boxes of ammo and his rifle. And he had told his dad that there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think his dad would believe him if he said it was the goat man. He says that his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours and that in the morning we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. Now, I'm really terrified, but at least I feel better because we can be American and shoot whatever it is if it comes back.
All right.
My favorite part of the story. Then Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. At this point, the sun was just barely over the horizon, and he has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks up to the trailer, and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that's his cousin, and he says yes. We tell him the whole story of what's been going on. I half expected him to say we were full of it, but he just listened and then sat down on the couches in the living room. So they load up their rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until about 11. To this day, every time I think about this, I really pray to God that it's some huge prank that my cousins played on me. At around 11, the stink of copper turns into actual nasty, gross, blood-like smell, like cooking blood and singed hair. Tan and his cousin, Reese, get up instantly and grab their rifles. There's like a half knocking, half clawing at the door, and there's this voice, and it sounds like when you see those YouTube cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to talk. It says in this halting, weirdly toned voice, "Let me in, stop playing." It was so obviously not a person talking. It didn't have the right cadence, and there's something I never realized up until that moment, but all people have a certain cadence when they talk, no matter what language. All people have a certain kind of rhythm to talking. This didn't have any kind of cadence or rhythm. So now I'm in full-on terror mode. We keep yelling outside, "Who is it? Stop messing around, man." And it just keeps saying "in" or "let me in" for almost 15 minutes. So then the smell goes away for a while. And for the next hour or so, you can hear someone basically creeping around in the woods. Every couple of minutes, it'll come back into the door and say something. Finally, when the smell fades away, it's around 2 a.m. right now. Reese opens the door and walks outside with his rifle. He fires a shot in the air and says something to the effect of, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away." Then it starts screaming, and it sounds almost like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Reese fires over into the tree line and then starts backing into the house. We lock the door, and we can hear it keening and screaming. Reese said something had come out of the bushes, super low to the ground, and crawling toward the cabin. He had shot at it.
No.
Pretty much that was how the rest of the night went. It was literally screaming constantly for the next 2 hours, and we could hear it moving out into the tree line. But it never came back up to the cabin until everyone had finally fallen asleep. Tan had been sitting in the chair watching the door with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this, and he told me 2 days later after the whole thing was over. He said he had been nodding off after the screaming and noises finally stopped, and that he had been almost asleep when he saw someone come out of the bathroom and then lay down in the middle of the floor and go to sleep. He just assumed it was one of us, and he had nodded off.
Bro!
Then he said he kind of realized something was wrong, and while pretending to be sleeping, he counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin.
But the cousin showed up.
So there were supposed to be 8. The cousin makes 8 people.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But there were...
Stop! You need name tags.
But there were 9 people in the cabin.
I don't like that.
I'm not done yet. I'm not
Oh my
done
God.
yet. He basically didn't want to try to shoot at the thing in the cabin and have it kill us all then and there, or have Reese wake up and start shooting and then we'd kill ourselves.
Or accidentally kill a friend just in case you're
Literally.
wrong.
Yeah. So he just stayed awake all night pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing or heave like it was laughing, but then it would lay back down.
Did it look like a person?
Doesn't say.
'Cause I feel like it would kind of have to look like a
It's
person.
it's a shapeshifter.
Okay, yes, okay, cool.
But we ate some breakfast, packed up, and
You
started walking to
should.
his house.
You should look at everyone, know their faces.
He stayed last in the cabin, and he said he'd lock up and bring me my uncle's keys to just start walking and that he'd catch up.
Why?
Tan had gone back to lock up and looked in there. There was a window in the bathroom. We were too stupid to lock a screenless window. The window was open when he went in there. I'm guessing that it had been there all along, waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up and then getting in among us. It walked with us all the way back to his house, and then he said it live to the back of the group and looked him dead in the eyes before walking into the woods.
Why didn't you tell your friends that it was there?
Because he probably didn't want to alarm them. They thought it was gone.
You're a bad friend. I'm so confused. Go camping with people you know. That's what we learned today.
Or don't go camping at all because
only
it
go
sounds
camping
terrifying.
with people you 100% know and would be okay with you accidentally shooting them.
Only go camping in your own backyard. That's the only way you can be safe. It's Happy Halloween, guys.
Yay!
It's Spooktober.
So maybe read about going into the woods.
And don't go into the woods because
Don't
it
actually go
sounds
into the woods.
terrifying.
Just listen to Into the Woods.
Yeah. Unless you're going to Scary Berry. Because I like Scary Berry.
Go into the woods with a guide.
With a guide at Scary Berry.
That's
Weird
it.
plug, weird plug.
Weird plug for Scary Berry.
Yeah. Also, the Halloween dance and the B-Cars,
Their haunted house.
their haunted
thing.
house is so fun. That's the
And
most scary.
Gates of Misery is good. That's not a berry event, but it's good.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching us try our
Try our
best to
best.
read all of this long stories.
Yay!
My throat is so dry.
I'm officially spooked.
Yeah. Happy spooky season.
Woo!